Good morning, class. Welcome to the lecture 4 of Business Communication, the course code BBAD 1005. We'll be taking up this particular lecture, and first and foremost, we'll be revising what we have done in the last lecture. So in this lecture, we are going to study dimensions and barriers of communication. And while recapitulation, we would be going for a process wherein we'll be studying how communication is done. So as we have studied in the last lecture, the sender has certain information which he wants to pass on to the receiver. He encodes the information in the form of message, and when the receiver receives that message, he performs the task of decoding, and ultimately a feedback has been sent. While here one thing is mentioned over as noise, which we can say it's not exactly a noise, it could be the barrier which actually stops the sender to send a message in the given format to the receiver, or stops the receiver to comprehend the message as it should be or as it is sent by the sender. To start with this lecture, I would like to tell you the objective. The objective is to make the learner aware of the barriers of the communication. You should be knowing what are the barriers of the communication, what are the different types of the barriers of the communication, where all these particular barriers exist in business world, and also how to overcome them. That is the most important part. Knowing the barrier is one thing, and overcoming them is another thing, which is a must for every manager or everyone working into the corporate. Then the topics to be covered will be the dimensions of the communication, is the upward, horizontal, downward, etc. Barriers of communication. Now, coming on to the next slide, which is the dimensions of communication. First will be the upward communication. So what is upward communication? As the name says, upward, it should be going from lower management or middle management to top management, or lower management to middle management, likewise. So it says that communication that flows from bottom to top, or which is from the lower hierarchical level to higher level, is called upward communication. So we all know upward here means we are talking about the hierarchical level. So if we are talking about a communication which is flowing from a lower hierarchical level to a higher one, it will be upward communication, irrespective of what level it is being transferred. That means it could be from lower management to middle, it could be from middle to top management, even it could be from lower management to top management. So what is the main function of upward communication? So it says that main function of upward communication is to supply information to the upper levels about what is being done, how it is being worked out at lower level. Means what is worked out? All the policies, the plans, the problems, the grievances, everything when passed on to the next higher level becomes the part of upward communication. And why it is important, upward communication? It's important because the top management only is making rules and regulations, they are making policies, they are making a number of different aspects for the upliftment of the organization, and they have an expectation that the lower management should be following all those policies. But since they are not the part of the lower management, since they are not the part of the people who are actually meant to implement those things, so they might skip some of the intricacies, some of the important aspects which is actually forwarded to them through upward communication. Because the lower management, while implementing the those things, the middle management while implementing those policies, the lower management while following those rules and regulation might have some problems, might have some suggestions they would like to give to the top management, so that it could be rectified, it could be, you know, made more effective. So that is why upward communication has got importance in business. Now we are talking about the next type of communication, that is called lateral or horizontal communication. What is lateral or horizontal communication? As the word says, lateral means which will be spreading on the same level. They are not going to cross any other hierarchical level. So it says when communication takes place between two or more persons who are subordinate working under the same person. That means these subordinate are working on the same level. So communication is being taking place between the people who are working on the same level. or those who are working on the same level. It is called lateral or horizontal communication. Now we know how do we draw a horizontal line. If I draw a horizontal line over here, see, this is a somewhat a horizontal line, and this is one person and this is another person, right? So if we are having communication between these two persons, that will be a part of lateral communication, because these lines here represent different hierarchies. Maybe we may say that this line wherein I have drawn two persons A and B, this is a middle management line. Then lateral communication will be the communication between this to this, right? And they are on the same hierarchical level. Well, when we are talking about upward or downward communication, it is called vertical communication, which occurs between two different hierarchical levels. See, this level and this level. Since it is occurring between two different hierarchical level, it is following what path? A vertical path. Maybe in this direction, or it could be in this direction, right? It is following a vertical path, therefore it is a vertical communication, and vertical communication is into two parts, upward and downward. Here we are studying lateral or horizontal communication. That means between two people, subordinate or managers or anyone, but the two people should be working on the same level. Okay, so just a second. So now what all this lateral or horizontal communication include? So it includes interdepartmental reports, request, suggestion, and most important is informal communication among the peers of the same level. So we all know that, I mean, you would have studied in your +2 or maybe in your previous classes that every organization is having a formal structure and an informal structure, and when we are talking about the importance of informal structure, it is equivalent to the formal structure. So when we are talking about any informal structure, the basis of any informal structure, informal group, informal gathering is the communication. The more the open communication is, the more better this particular informal group will be operating. So here when we are talking about horizontal communication, we are mostly into reports, requests, suggestions at the same level. Yes, suggestion could be done into upward communication also, but here suggestions at the same level, and informal communication among the peers or the people working together, that too on the same level. So now, for example, a meeting between sales manager and the production manager, both are manager, both are into different department, but they are working on the same hierarchical level. Now we'll be moving on to another type of communication, that is called diagonal or cross communication. So what is that diagonal and cross communication? It includes the flow of information among persons at different level who have no direct reporting relationship. So what is the most important part in this is that these people have no direct reporting, right? So what does that particular line mean? That means whatever work I am doing, that work does not include the person whom I am going to communicate. Means if I'm doing certain work, say X, I will have to report to my senior, or it may happen that some of my junior would be reporting that same work to me. So we are into a chain wherein we are bound by a same kind of work. We are bound by the same type of relationship which we called a reporting relationship. While in cross communication, it could be happening between two different departments wherein people are on different levels. One is manager, one could be a manager, one could be at a junior level, or maybe a senior manager, someone, but they are not directly linked into any reporting relationship. They both are working into different entities and working on a different level. Okay, it cuts across department line. That is what I have said, that it could be between two departments. It could be, say, marketing and finance department, a junior manager or maybe a sales executive of a marketing department, if contacting, or if we are having a crosswise communication with the manager or finance department, that will be called a diagonal communication, because they are not into direct reporting relationship, yet they need to work out something, they need to have communication. So that particular type of communication would be called as crosswise communication or diagonal communication, because it is going like this. See, again I'll be drawing one figure that will be a bit easier for you to understand. It will be going like this, right? So here we are having the hierarchy levels, and this one is one department and this one is another department. So a junior employee from department 1 will be contacting a senior employee from department 2. So it is going like this. It is crossing the boundary of two different departments, and also it is crossing two different hierarchy levels. Therefore, it will be called as diagonal communication. Just a second, student. So now we can have an example. For example, cost and work accountant who is interested in conducting and distributing cost analysis may report directly from sales representatives. Okay. Now then next is inward communication. So what is inward communication? It includes all the information received by the organization from external agencies. Now inward communication means that communication which is coming inside the organization. Up till now whatever communication we have studied was within the organization, nothing was coming from outside. Right now inward communication says that something is coming from outside, from outside the boundary of the organization, and that information is being imbibed and maybe it is of much use for the organization. This information could be coming from other organization, it could be coming from government agencies, it could be coming from suppliers, it could be coming from customers, it could be coming from competitors, it could be coming from shareholders, etc. Now then is outward. If we are talking about inward communication, then obviously there is some other component that is called outward communication. So what it could be? Outward communication is just opposite of inward communication. The information is flowing from inside to outside world, means crossing the boundary of the organization to someone who is in need of this particular information and is not the part of the organization. So if we can see into this, the communication which the organization maintains with the outside world, it may be in the form of advertisements. Yes, advertisement is a kind of communication wherein we are describing our products, we are describing our services, we are describing their features, we are making the customer know the USPs, etc. It could be the media interaction, yes, telling about your organization, whatever is being done into the organization, if something is being launched or some new project has been taken up. Then public relations, negotiations, mails, letters. Now, it says the term barrier means what? It means a hurdle or an obstacle. It would generate confusion, conflict, misunderstanding. Now, it always tries, barrier always, why barrier is important to understand? Because barrier of communication is something which is not very much, you know, clear that yes, the barrier exists. There's nothing, it's not a physical barrier like yes, there is a barrier, there is a barricade and the message is not going to pass. There's nothing in concrete. It happens to be into the system, which ultimately does what? It distorts the message. It creates fiction. It creates confusion. It creates problem amongst organizational member. It affects the morale of the employee because either you are not getting what the other person is saying, or you may not be able to let him understand that you have got the message. It could be any way. The barriers to communication, there are various barriers. Physical noise. In the video which we have seen, there was a noise. Suppose two people are talking and there's a lot of honking from the background. Even in the class when we are teaching, if the students are continuously into the talking part, or maybe there is some rallies going on while the two people are communicating. So such kind of noise which is very much evident, which is called physical noise, it is the most widespread barrier, and it is most common to understand, right? Next is technical noise. Technical noise, again, your mind is fully blocked into some technology, which is very much common these days. Technical barrier or technical noise is something like we are into doing WhatsApp message, we are doing into Facebook and something, and someone else is talking with us, we are not paying attention to them. So this is called technical barrier. You are so much engrossed into the technology, you are so much engrossed into the system. This is one way of technical barrier. Another way out is that we are onto a phone, we are onto some technology, we are using certain technology to communicate, and that technology fails at the time of the communication. That is also kind of technological barrier. Then psychological noise. Psychological noise is someone comes to you, someone wants to talk to you, but you are so much engrossed into your own thought process, you are so much imbibed, indulged into your own thought process, you could not get what this person is telling to you. You could not understand him because you could not pay attention, and that is because you are having a psychological noise, which is something into the inside of the person. Then poor timing. Yes, when there is poor timing, you obviously won't get the message conveyed properly, and even you won't be getting a proper feedback. Every message, every talk, everything has got its own timing, and it is to be done in the same way. Then perceptual bias. Now perceptual bias is something we call it, I'll give you an example. Suppose I'm telling someone that yes, today you are looking good in formals. So it is up to them, it is up to their perception that whether they are taking the message as it is said, or they may be taking it as sarcasm, right? So perceptual bias is how you are taking the message. Again, that is something internal. Next is lack of interest. Now if a person is not interested into listening to you, no matter what all efforts you put on, there will be a barrier, and that is again a barrier which is internal, intrinsic to the receiver. Psychological bias. Now psychological bias is something I'm giving certain message. Psychological bias and perceptual bias is somewhat related. Psychological bias says that if I'm suppose giving a message to you, as in you are a receiver and I'm the sender, and maybe that you have got a biasness towards me, that whatever message ma'am passes is maybe uh, fake, or maybe exaggerated or something. So in that case you would be taking the message in that way only, right? That is called psychological bias. Psychologically I have made my mind that this person is going to pass on such kind of message only. So irrespective of what message is being passed, I'll be taking the message in that way. Then information overload. Now you people would be knowing it very much clearly. If we are taking up a lecture and we are suppose solving a particular question, we'll be giving you a formula, we'll be giving you few numericals to practice, and now you are like, yes, this is it, we cannot go beyond this, and again the teacher or the faculty has started telling you some other formulae, some other uh, questions. So that is called information overload. Brain has got a fixed path, a fixed capacity of information which could be comprehended in a given period of time, and which could be remembered. So if we are giving information more than required, what happens that yes, you may at times take the information first hand, you may even comprehend the information, but talking about giving the feedback, talking about understanding and using that information will become a bit difficult for you because of the information overload. And that is why it is said that when we are passing in information, we should make sure that every process should be having a limited information, so that that information is understood, comprehended, feedback is passed, and that information is used in the right way. Now, whatever I have explained in physical noise, we can see that you are talking on a busy lane, you are into a bus, maybe talking, there will be a lot of honking, there will be a lot of noise of people walking around, etc. So you might not be able to comprehend what the sender is trying to say. So it says that physical noise occurs when a sender and receiver try to communicate in a situation that is noisy. For example, a bus stop. Now, technical noise. It says technical noise occurs when the sender and the receiver use tool to communicate. For example, a phone, right? When two people are communicating using the phone, One person steps onto elevator, the signal will be lost and the communication will fail. This is one of the example. Like you're talking on to phone, you are passing a very crucial information to the receiver, and meanwhile the receiver is not in a situation where the network is there and the information may be lost. Then comes psychological noise. So psychological noise occurs when the receiver of the message is thinking of something and is not concentrating on the message itself. It's not concentrating on the sender. It's not concentrating on the message. Why? Because that person is engrossed into some thinking. He is very much involved into something which inside his brain. For example, having a class in park, yes, it's sort of because you may be into the scenic beauty, you may be into the, if someone is playing around, you may be into looking at them and you may not pay due attention onto the classes. Then poor timing. So poor timing usually occurs when the sender is not aware of the mood of the receiver while sending the message. So here mood means the right time, the right situation. For example, if you want to say ask question and it is being told into the starting of the class that while teaching you will be asking question once the faculty has finished up with one concept, and they may say that now this is the question answer time, then you can ask the question. But your timing will be wrong if you are asking the question while the faculty is still teaching that particular concept maybe, and maybe has not called for question and answer session. So that will be called as poor timing. Now every person has got a different way to handle this poor timing part. Some will start shouting, some will simply say that no, this is not the right time to ask question, you can sit down and you can ask later. But again, the communication won't be completed. You would be, there would be a barrier. Whatever question you would have asked or whatever information you would try to send, that process would not be completed because of poor timing. Okay. For example, approaching your employer for a raise when she has just made an announcement that the company is almost bankrupt. Yes, one of the example is this also. Then comes perceptual bias. So perceptual bias occurs when the sender is not aware of the rules of first impression, right? For example, when you attend an interview, there is an appropriate dress code. Failure to follow that dress code may result in to you being in prejudiced. If you go for an interview for an accounting position dressed in jeans and t-shirt, don't be surprised if you don't get the job. See, here we are not basically talking about jeans and t-shirt. We are talking about a dress code. We are talking about a way to appear into the interview. Most of the job has, most of the vacancies, most of the organization write into the vacancies that the interview should be into formals. So if you are simply avoiding that, just maybe by mistake, then also there will be a perceptual bias that yes, since that person has avoided such crucial information or maybe such a small information, even that person is not very much into, he is not serious, maybe something. So that is called perceptual bias. There are other examples of perceptual bias also, and I have taught that into the previous part. Now then comes lack of interest. Now sometimes there are some things that we are just not interested in. Of all the subjects, the students, they complete their degree, they cannot love all. Yes, there are certain subjects which you are interested in. There are certain subjects you are just doing for the sake of completing your degree. So that is called lack of interest. So subjects or courses which grabs your interest, you'll be very much attentive into the class, you'll be listening to it. But certain subjects which are not of your interest, you would be simply sitting into the class at times and you'll be mugging it all up at the time of exam. Same happens in organization. When two persons are talking, it depends. If the conversation gets your interest, you'll be very much involved into the conversation, into the communication process. If it is not of your interest area, you would be not getting involved. You at times you would not be paying attention at all. There will be one or two subjects that we have to suffer to stay awake for. A lack of interest in what someone has to say will definitely lead to the breakdown of communication, because then the receiver would not be giving a proper feedback because he wasn't listening what the sender was saying all the time, since he was not having since he was not having any interest into the conversation. So the next is psychological bias. Now, ever heard of prejudices? Prejudice is what? Someone doesn't like you because you are maybe rich, young, old, female, whatever. You are something which he doesn't like. So that thing that you don't like that person, or you don't like that particular characteristic, will actually may create a psychological bias. So they are having a prejudice that I don't like these things, and this person is possessing these things, therefore I don't like that person. If you don't like a person, you won't be paying attention into listening to the person, you won't be paying any attention into the information they are trying to send to you. So there are biases. A bias is something that the sender cannot fix. So again, as I have said into the starting, the psychological bias is something which is intrinsic to the receiver, right? Intrinsic to the receiver. Now receiver has to get rid of this particular bias if he or she wants to have a clear communication, because whatever a sender does, he cannot remove a bias, psychological bias, from the part of the receiver. So there is no solution to this problem. Just be prepared from the part of sender, and yes, the receiver has to be very much proactive to remove such biases so that all the information could be gathered from the sender. Okay, so we would be going for the summary what we have studied in this particular lecture. So we have studied dimensions of communication, which includes the upward communication, the downward communication. Taking together, we call it vertical communication. Then there is horizontal or lateral communication. We have done cross communication or diagonal communication, which we have said that it is interdepartmental on two different hierarchical levels. And after the communication, we have gone through one video explaining the barriers to communication. We have studied various barriers: noise barrier, technological barrier or technical barrier. Then we have studied psychological barrier, lack of interest, wrong timing, etc. So this is all what we have done today in the lecture, and we'll be taking up this particular topic into the next lecture. And then we move on to the next slide, which shows the references. Okay, so this was all for today's lecture, and here there are references as I used to give in all the lectures. You can go for mm, business communication book, you can go for online materials, you can go for the materials which I provide you, you can even go for the PPT which you have got right now, and go through all the concept of uh, barriers to communication. And if in case you have any doubt, you can obviously contact me and you can ask the question, you can mail me the question. Thank you.